Welcome back to World of Immersion. Today, we're going to be doing possibly one of the hardest rankings for me to do of all time, and that is going to be the top 10 rides at Europa Park. Now, the reason this is hard to do is because this park has just so many incredible rides, and it's so hard for me to narrow them down to just 10 amazing rides, much less put them in order from worst to best. But obviously, it's a rankings video, so we have to do that. But I do want to preface this video by saying I love each and every ride at this park. This park is truly incredible. It is my personal favorite theme park in the entire world. Be sure to check out our ranking videos of my top 10 theme parks of all time. So this video is going to be very hard for me to rank them all. But like I said, we have to do it. But before we start today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It shows that over 97% of you guys are not subscribed who watch these videos. Please hit that subscribe button if you can. It helps out the channel a ton. With that being said though, let's get right into the video. Alright, and starting off at number 10 is going to be one of the park's dark rides. And sorry in advance if I mispronounce anything, but this one is going to be Madame Freudenreich's Curiosities. Now this is a great dark ride. It was, I believe, a retheme of an older dark ride that was a dinosaur-themed dark ride. However, this one is very cute. They completely rethemed it to be much more family-friendly. But let me just tell you, this ride is amazing. Do not sleep on it whatsoever. The front entrance of it looks like just a random store. It's so funny. It's hard to find this ride, if anything, because it does not look like a ride entrance. But that queue is very well themed. There's even an animatronic in the queue, which is great. And then once you board that vehicle, it is incredible. The set design is amazing in there. You really feel like you're going through this garden outside of a house. And the dinosaur animatronics are awesome as well. They've made these dinosaurs look very cute instead of scary, which I think is awesome. It's not the longest ride in the world, but the set design that it does have and the animatronics and the cute little story that it tells is great. Also, the animatronic of the woman at the end looks amazing as well. That's one of the best animatronics in the park, in my opinion. But yeah, overall, this ride is a ton of fun. Do not sleep on it whatsoever. This park has an incredible collection of dark rides. There are so many. I wish I could include all of them in this list, but only a few of them made the cut. But be sure to look up POVs if you can, or go check out the park and do not miss these awesome dark rides. And on top of everything, these almost all have 1-minute waits the entire day, which is great. But moving on to number 9 is a ride that is very similar to a ride I have at one of my home parks. That's going to be Volitarium. Now this is a very similar ride to the likes of Soarin' over the Disney parks. It is a flying theater attraction. However, this one is awesome. I think I do slightly prefer Soarin' over the Disney parks just because of how great the soundtrack is for Soarin'. But this one is awesome as well. The queue is incredible. That's a little trend you'll notice with the rides here at Europa Park is every single queue is beautifully themed. Some of the best queues I've ever seen in my life. And this one is no joke. It is absolutely an incredible queue. Definitely better than the Soarin' queues for sure. And this ride is just really cool. You fly over all the different European landmarks and it looks great. The screen quality is really, really good. And the soundtrack is great as well. It's absolutely a beautiful soundtrack to go along with this ride. What's cool about this one is instead of lifting you up like the Soarin' ones do, this one pushes you into the screen much more like Flight of Passage, which I think is great because you don't have any legs dangling in your face. Helps out the ride a ton. But while it is still a simulator, that's why it can't be much higher on the list for me. But this ride is a great time. Absolutely check this one out if you can on your day. Moving on to number 8 is going to be one of the indoor coasters in the park, and that is Eurosat Can Coaster. Now this ride is awesome. The queue, once again, is incredibly themed. It feels almost like you're going through like a world showcase sort of thing. It feels like a World's Fair kind of event. You're going into the Moulin Rouge, and then you go into the station of this queue, and it is awesome. This is an incredible station. You feel like you're almost outdoors with all the nature and everything, and the lighting. It looks amazing. This ride has incredible onboard audio. You start off with a spiral lift hill. You're actually inside of that huge globe. I don't want to call it an Epcot ball because they claim that it's not an Epcot ball, but it looks very closely to an Epcot ball. But yeah, this coaster is inside of that huge sphere, and it is cool. You absolutely cannot see anything in there except for what they want you to see. It starts off with that spiral lift hill around the Eiffel Tower, and then you go through all different kinds of props. Feels almost like a mini rock and roller coaster the way it goes through these props, and it's great. Also, the onboard audio is amazing. It's a great long ride. Feels like this park's version of Space Mountain, and it is awesome. I highly recommend checking out this one if you can. Do be warned though, one little thing that I noticed is this ride has no AC indoors, so it gets really, really hot in there. So maybe hit this one at night if you can. But moving on to number 7 is unfortunately the only ride in the park that was slightly disappointing to me, and that is going to be Silver Star. Now, I did have some high expectations for this as I have been on a bunch of other B&M hypers, and a lot of those are really, really good. But unfortunately, this one was not as great as the other ones. It's probably my second least favorite B&M Hyper, just above Apollo's Chariot, which was the first one ever built. This one just ran a little bit rough, and the airtime was not as strong as I'd like it to be. But that being said, it's still a B&M Hyper, so it's a great ride. It just can't come in that much higher on the list for me because the other rides in the park are just so incredible. Also, on top of that, this ride is probably the least themed ride in the entire park. It has practically no theming. However, that is all about to change next year with their brand new expansion into this land of the park, which is going to be awesome. I think they're going to give this ride a huge retheme, which is absolutely deserved. This ride definitely needs it. Moving on to number 6 is another one of the dark rides in the park. And once again, forgive me for my pronunciation, but we got Castello Medici. Now, this is awesome. This ride is so cool. It is like the park's version of Haunted Mansion. And while I do prefer Haunted Mansion slightly, this one is still really cool. In fact, it starts off with a stretching room, very similar to the likes of the stretching rooms over on Haunted Mansion. We were all laughing because it's nearly identical. It's actually really funny. And I'm sure that the audio that was in German, which we could not understand, I'm sure it was very similar to what is happening in the audio during the Haunted Mansion versions. But the actual ride itself is definitely pretty different. It utilizes a similar ride system. It uses that Omnimover system. However, once you start actually going on the ride, it's definitely pretty different. It's a lot more of a darker theme. It's a lot more of a darker theme than the Haunted Mansion versions. Those ones have a little bit more of like a goofy kind of whimsical feel. This one's a little bit scarier for sure. But it's great. The animatronics are awesome. There's these huge sets in there. There's one scene where you spiral around it for a while and you go upwards. It is very cool. This ride is just awesome. I highly recommend checking this one out. It also was one of those rides that had a 1-minute line the entire day we were there. I do believe this one does have air conditioning, which is it's a great way to cool off from the crowds, especially when it's got a 1-minute wait all day. But moving on to our top 5, and at number 5 is also a ride that was pretty surprising to me. That was Blue Fire. Now, I went in expecting this ride to not be super crazy, and while it wasn't the most intense ride in the world, it was definitely awesome. The inversions are a lot of fun, especially that final inversion. It feels almost like a mini Mosasaurus roll. It is super whippy, definitely the highlight moment of the ride in my opinion. Besides that, I would almost consider this ride a family coaster. It's nothing too crazy, but it is buttery smooth, and it's just a great ride overall. It's got some awesome theming. That pre-launch theming section is amazing as well. Right before you launch, it is very cool. And this ride is just awesome. I highly recommend checking it out. It's in the back section of the park, right next to another one of the rides that is actually going to be coming in at number 4, and that is Wodan. This is also one of my favorite rides at Europa Park, and one of my favorite wooden coasters of all time. It is an extremely smooth GCI wooden coaster. Genuinely, my only issue with the entire ride is that it is slightly short. Other than that, this is a near perfect GCI, one of my favorite wooden coasters of all time. Once again, the queue is incredibly themed. It is a very long queue. However, we did not wait very long because we ropes dropped it. But this ride is just so cool. The theming that it dives in and out of is awesome as well. And like I said, it is one of the smoothest wooden coasters I've ever been on. Gives some great airtime, is very intense. This is definitely one of the best coasters in the park. And if you're a thrill seeker, it might be one of your favorites for sure. But coming in at number 3 is a ride that I loved so much. I was extremely impressed by it. Honestly, I did not expect it to be anywhere near as good as it actually was. And that is going to be Arthur. Now, this indoor family coaster dark ride hybrid is incredible. It's one of the best storytelling rides I have ever seen. Everything from the queue to the loading station with the animatronic there, to the first few show scenes to the outdoor section, everything is just incredible and it flows so well together. This is one of the most brilliant ride systems I've ever seen. It's a suspended powered coaster that has a controlled spin to it, so you can just tell a story exactly how you want to. It turns you to the dark ride scenes it wants you to see, and it's also inverted so your legs are dangling, which means you get to fly through a bunch of scenes. There's a whole part where you fly right over the indoor section of the entire park right there, right where that ride is. It's the whole indoor section. You fly over, you get to wave to the guests down below. Meanwhile, you've got this incredible onboard soundtrack while you're going through that section, and it's just awesome. It's a lot more thrilling than I expected it to be as well. It doesn't look that crazy from off-ride, but because you're spinning a little bit and you're going pretty fast because it's a powered coaster, it definitely's got a bit of thrill to it. I cannot recommend this ride enough. I think we rode it 3 times on our visit because we all loved it so much. This ride is great. And while it is a family coaster, the entire group can absolutely enjoy this ride. Anybody will love this ride. But coming in at number 2 is going to be my highest ranked dark ride, and honestly one of my favorite dark rides in the entire world. And that's going to be Pirates in Batavia. This ride is truly incredible. While a lot of the time I do prefer the Disney counterparts to these rides, this is one that I actually prefer this one. I prefer this to the Pirates of the Caribbean over at Disneyland because I think this ride is just incredible. It has some of the best set design I have ever seen in my life. The queue, first of all, is incredibly themed as well, like every other ride at Europa Park. And the whole ride is just amazing. These sets are incredible. They are some of the most detailed and big sets I've ever seen in my life. Has a bunch of animatronics as well. That first scene that you drop into is incredible with all the lighting. It's some of the best lighting on a ride I've ever seen in my life. And then you go into the village section, which is right after, and it has so many animatronics. We rode it 3 times, and I still did not see everything. There were still new things I was seeing each time. The scene where you go into the town, and there's all the stars above, is also one of my favorites. The projection mapping on this looks incredible. It is some of the best projection mapping I've ever seen. And of course, you finish off the ride by going past a restaurant very similar to Blue Bayou. This ride is just amazing. I cannot recommend it enough. Absolutely one of the best rides in the world. But it does not take the #1 spot, and that honor goes to one of my favorite roller coasters in the entire world. That's going to be Voltron. This ride is nearly perfect. Everything from the incredible queue, which moves incredibly fast, as I must say, because this ride is an omni-mover station, to the awesome indoor queue with the animatronic is amazing as well. You get to watch those vehicles launch. While the wing seats are slightly rough in my opinion, the inside seats are completely buttery smooth. However, it's absolutely a thing of preference because the wing seats can be a lot more intense. You get whipped through those elements a lot more on the wing seats. So yeah, you go inside for smooth, outside for a little bit more whippy and a little rougher. But honestly, both are great experiences. You start off with that very unique bounce track, which is so cool. It actually gives a little bit of airtime. I was very surprised. And then that first launch is insane. You are launching and then you continue launching while you're going upside down. It is the weirdest feeling of all time. This ride has amazing inversions, has incredible airtime, some of the best airtime I've ever experienced. It's one of the longest coasters I have ever experienced in my life. Halfway through, you think the ride is almost done, and then you go through a turntable and into a backwards launch, and it keeps going. It's only halfway done. It's insane. This ride is just so perfect, an incredible addition to Europa Park, and absolutely the standout ride of the whole park in my opinion. But that's going to do it for our video today. Be sure to comment down below how you would rank the rides at Europa Park. This park has so many incredible rides, so absolutely everybody's going to have a different top 10. But I think one thing we can all agree on is how amazing this park is. Truly one of the greatest parks in the world, and my personal favorite theme park in the world. But thank you so much for watching World of Immersion today, and we'll catch you in the next video.